Join us on the Dash to Snow Bash. We're taking this rig, the super rare 73 K5 Blazer, and making it not that. It's gonna get a cab swap, 5, maybe 6 winches, full tube truggy work, and finish hooking up the motor that hasn't run in 2 years. Today is Wednesday. We have until next Friday to get all this done and be on the trailer headed for Kalispell in the morning of Friday, so really Thursday night. So we'll walk you around the rig and show you what we're thinking. Right now, this is the status of the motor. There's no carburetor, oil pan, distributor, exhaust, alternator hooked up. None of those things. We found a 83 K30 cab that's going on it, so we can seal it because somebody did a pickup bed conversion on it. If you look back over here, there's huge gaps between the cab and the body, so it doesn't heat very well, and it's really small. So now we got the body ready to lift off. We get the new cab tomorrow, and then the 6 winches is we're gonna put one in every single corner so you can pull the suspension down and make it side hill and lean better. After that, it's getting rock sliders or boat sides, a front winch, possibly dovetailed and tube work in the front, and then a roll bar and kickers in the back, and just an open frame with tail lights so we can stack rigs to haul them too deep. Whoa. We got those, I thought. Must not have. Oh, we broke them loose and then didn't
take them out.
Shifters look like they're gonna clear easy. Cab first, and let's make sure. Whoa! E-brake cable. And there's some wiring over here.
I'm going to do with the Blazer and modify it. With the 4 winches, I'm going to need some separate winch controls. I have some in-dash switches for the winches for all the little 5Ks that are going on each corner as suck-down winches. So I'm going to design a bracket for those and for others. I made this little switch panel. So here's each corner of your suck down winch. So this would be front driver, front passenger, rear passenger, in and out. They're 3-way switches. And then I got 5 switches down here, just normal typical rocker switches that are good for like 5, 20 amps or whatever they are. Anyway, but then basically you got like front light bar, rear work lights, side lights, rock lights, and then one extra for who knows what. Something else, bed lights or whatever we're gonna do. I'm gonna slice this, and you saw me do multicolor, so we're gonna print this out of ASA carbon fiber. This will give you an idea of what it's gonna do for supports in different layers.
All right, friends, we're going to get a new cab for the Blazer or Truggy build. It's not too far away. Taking the Colorado on the lightweight little trailer because it's just a cab, a frame, a rear axle. We're also picking up some new lift springs because the ones on the front are bowing backwards, and these are used new to us, used but good shape, better than we got. And then that'll allow us to have more travel out of our winch setup. And then the cab's missing a column. So since we're putting a column in it, we're buying a used tilt column from them. Also keeping it, gonna make it nicer to drive. Taking breaker width. All right. Come on, breaker. We're back. This is the Butte we acquired. Took the little car trailer, decent little truck. It's a K30, so that's cool. It had a 1-ton front axle under it, which I would have loved to have, but oh well. hydro boost because 1 ton, which would be cool. Not something we're probably going to do right now. I'm probably just going to unbolt it and put it on the shelf. And was an AC truck, also cool. Also not going to use, it's going to be in the way of my tires because we're losing the fender liners and all that stuff. Building new battery brackets. Anyway, came with a hood. It's okay. Rockers and stuff are decent. It's kind of dinged up, but it's gonna get dovetailed in a buggy anyway, so what do we care? Inside's mostly there. Whatever's not there, I can steal out of the other one. Got a tilt column, some lift springs. It's got a gun rack, so you know that's cool, and it's got a spotlight. But came with the hood's under there, and it came with a 14 bolt. That's, you know, that's how you like storing your 14 bolts without diff covers on them. But yeah, we're just gonna pull some cab mounts. Looks like there's only 6. Whack off any sort of e-brake situation with just a cutoff wheel, and replace this. I guess might be kind of warm. Oh, a mirror on that side would be good. If we get the time, I'm gonna dovetail the front end, make it nice and narrow. Grill's pretty rough, but if it gets dovetailed, got a whole lot of parts to strip out of this thing, so I can then set it on my Blazer and rock and roll. Logically, you would use the K30 frame. That's all nice and super beefy, but we're not going to do that because we're lazy. I'm not convinced what I'm doing with this truck anyway, and I got a whole bunch of work to do. This was a debacle. I lifted up the front of the truck to pull the cab mounts, and then the trailer rolled, and it rolled off the back, and it got entertaining. And I set it down here because so then I can figure out how to set it down, not on the trailer, not on sheet metal, not on stuff. Now that cab is pulled, is loose, ready to lift off. So the plan is, I gotta run into town to get parts, but I need the snow to thaw off of that. So we're gonna pull this out. Got this hooked up here. I'm flying solo here, so if I pick this up with the boom, then at least I can jerk the back left or right to help steer. And then this cab's ready to come off also. So, and then I have this to contend with. The excavator's all so close to the garage door, I don't want to mess up. Yeah. So master's loose. Come to find out, we have to pull the vacuum booster and stuff too, but whatever. If we can do a little bit of that outside, it ain't a big deal. So, the plan is pull this out, pull the cab off, roll frame back in, build winches, mounts, fix exhaust, that kind of stuff. Put on the lift, get access to everything. Set new cab in shop to melt while I work on this, and I run around and I get all the stuff to put the motor together, put the exhaust back on, that kind of stuff. Maybe pick up some material. So then when I get around to mounting the cab this evening, tomorrow morning, it's already melted off and dry. So then once we get to mounting it, we can get to work. We're up. No, I'm pretty sure she's in neutral, but I can't say as I checked. Certainly was not in neutral. Lockering gears, this shouldn't roll away. Take a big old guess on where the center of gravity is. I'm gonna guess it is square between the wheel wells. You think those say Husky ratchet straps, but indeed they are Husky lifting straps. You find them in a different section. They're not in the aisle, they're on the end cap. That's how you know the difference, whether they're lifting or tie down straps. So we're gonna see how this looks. Under the front, I got it hooked underneath that rock slider. Let's see if... I already picked it up on the lift to make sure it was all disconnected. And now I'm just trying to do it on my lonesome, without messing up anything too bad. By design, I left the carburetor and the distributor off just in case things didn't go as they planned. not bad. Go check on that wire that's left. Goes to a fuel pump. I'm sure it's just hooked on something. We're free! Look, there's so much room for activities. It looks even cooler without a cab on it. We're gonna figure out something for a fuel fill. I'm missing some exhaust parts. And then we got some front lift springs to put on it. Okay, we're back with our Husky lifting straps.
Never really know what's going on. Look at me sometimes like all you want to do is run. Hear me out, hear me out. It's all the things you never show. There are the things I want to know.
It's been thawing, some of the snow's coming off. We're getting a look at what we really got to deal with and what we're missing, and doors are pretty dented. Latches are debatable. Got to replace a window. So out there looking at my other door. My other door's equally bad. It's just also rusty. I don't know what's worse, dented or rusty. Anyway, the door panel would be nice. Window crank would be nice. A wing window would be nice. These are all optional things. Got to reach in there and pull the trans tunnel pan out, but it looks like all the shifters and stuff are in the same spot, so I might have to go steal that off my other trans tunnel, or I just pull this one and put the other one in. I don't know yet. I need to get the stuff off the seat. The thing is filthy smelling. It's been holding water and bacon in there for a while. Cool part, it's got cab lights and a roof light. That counts for something, right? Next thing I'm going to Google is how to pull off the front clip, because I don't see a reason to fight installing it with a front clip, because if the front clip's off, I can work around it and sit in it and pull all the fender liners out, and then I can get good access to the firewall and do all that stuff. There's quite a bit of work here, and I'm trying not to get overwhelmed, but we got a lot to do. Got the Blazer up on the lift without the body on it. That's kind of cool. Backstory, in the intro video, this thing does a donut, and if you had sound, it would be knocking like crazy because the motor was on its way out, and the motor was on its way out because we drove up through a muddy hole and the water got deep enough it went in through the intake and killed the motor. I am also getting a new air filter because if for no other reason, the other one's got bad mojo. But the reason this truck's been down for a year and a half was I tried to take it to an event a year ago, last February. I tried to take it, so I did a whole bunch of work to it. I could not get an oil pan gasket in time, so I rolled it outside. I bolted the pan up with a ripped Tor gasket and rolled it outside, and that was about a year ago now. So now it's back in, and I'm trying to solve these problems. I've got an oil pan gasket, so I just got done cleaning off the sealing surface and that kind of stuff, so I got to put all that back together. And I went to go clean the pan, and the pan is clear full of sand and stuff in the bottom of the pan. Hopefully, it was laying here draining, but you can see it's gritty. You could hear the grit. Anyway, so it's draining at the moment, so then I can then clean it real well. And this pan's less than ideal because it's already been fixed. Somebody's brazed it. But they did a halfway decent job with it, so I'm not really worried about it, honestly. So we're just going to ignore that and leave that guy alone. Got a nice silicone gasket to put in it. And then we'll put that back together. I was short some exhaust little donuts to put the exhaust back in. And so I got those. So notice this exhaust isn't even in the truck. It fell out as I was moving it back and forth. Well, I took it the rest of the way out. Anyway, it was falling out and I didn't want it to get bent. So we're going to put that in. And then this is not ideal long-term exhaust solutions. So conveniently, there's this little doodad here, not doing nothing. I think I might weld it just to this random piece of flex exhaust and just stuff those two together like they deserve each other and weld it. be done. Because then it's supported. It's not really supported anywhere in between, and then it still has some flex because flex pipe. Get it? Yeah, set. Anyway, do something similar on this side. I thought this one was attached up until it fell out of the truck. Gotta fill this with oil. It's made noises since I've owned it, so we're just going to hope and pray that it continues to make noises and doesn't make any sudden noises. These springs with the current weight it had were bent basically within yay of touching the bump. I think limiting factor right now is the shocks. This isn't even counting all the winch stuff we got to do. So, but if I could get an oil pan gasket on it, I could roll it outside and bust out a hot seat, and this thing all of a sudden would be way easier to work on. So I would like to do that. Evil plans for a paint scheme. I think we're gonna paint the cab a dark navy blue to match the company channel, whatever we're calling this, colors. And then it's gonna be a truggy, and truggies have tubing. So we'll paint the tubing neon green. And I'm not saying it's gonna look good, but I am saying it's gonna be identifiable for sure. So I'm gonna get back to work trying to pull the front clip and stuff off, scuff, mask down a cab, throw some paint on it, then clean up my oil pan gasket, put that back together. And then if this was dry in the morning and I could move it, and the oil pan gasket was on, and the motor was kind of sealed up. I mean, the motor's still got rags stuffed in intakes and distributor ports, but at least if I can kind of do some stuff on it, like, you know, whack off most of this mud and stuff, like, it's pretty thick. She's been a wheeling truck for a while.
Another part. We're going to make a controller box for the winch controller on these 5,000 pound winches. So there's going to be a box, and then there's going to be a lid, and then there's going to be a gasket. And the gasket's going to have all the wires go through it and seal the box lid. So should make it somewhat watertight. Then I'm just going to make it sit on the top of the horizontal rods that hold either end of the winch together, like every other solenoid box in the world. They just don't make it for ATV or UTV winches, and I don't know why. We'll speed this up now and you can see the end result. This will be the bolts for the solenoid to hold it down. This will snap it. These guys will snap on, so you'll push it like this orientation onto the first rod of the winch, and then it'll rotate down, click onto the winch there. These are custom little gaskets. Finagling thinking about now is I have to figure out a way to route the wires out of this box. 2 big 4 6-gauge wires in, 2 more of them coming out, and then 1 more sheathed wire with 3-4 wires on the inside of it to run the controllers. These holes will just get silicone when they get put together because they don't have to come out again. And then you can pull this top bolt on and off. Bottom one really glue. The reason I did it this way is because then if you hide this part prints as a flat part upside down like that. And all this goofy stuff prints pretty reasonable with minimal supports. You hide this, you show this, minus the gaskets, it sits real nice and flat, and it's just prints of vertical bumps. And you hide that, then you print that, and that'll change color and elevation change even. So there's no like multi-color changing like it was on the goofy vehicle, like the switch box. And then when they're all done, they bolt together, be watertight.
Okay, build update. Exhaust is now hooked up, has all the gaskets required. It also has the exhaust hangers that are needed. The rear winch mounts are tacked up and ready to put together. Caleb's ripping apart the power steering, the steering column. So that's going in the cab. Did a whole bunch of work in there. Caleb also got the brake booster figured out. So it now has vacuum boost on it. The AC system is a little different than the other one we've been dealing with, and it's going to be interesting to make that work. And now we're going to roll it all out and set the cab on there so we can start hooking up all the important stuff, making sure the motor runs, distributors, carburetors, that sort of thing. And then debatably still doing the front lift kit or not. So. We kind of hit a snafu. This cab is so far gone, I think it's less time to find a new cab and swap it. Not that I can't fix it, not that it isn't fixable. It's not worth the time to fix it than it is to go to the next one, because right now it's an AC truck and the pickup here for the AC and the heater hose connections are different. This is off of a non-AC truck where usually the heater would pick up right there. This box is right here, and then the heater hoses come out over here. And that barely clears the tires as it is from the Blazer. I know this. So that's a problem. The normal AC heater box sticks clear out here and sticks out like this and may or may not clear the tire. And it's a whole bunch of extra weight and a whole bunch of extra stuff we don't need. So that's less than ideal. Didn't know that in advance. We got the brake booster swapped to a vacuum boost, so that's all fine and set back up. And we got the steering shaft and things hooked up, and that's just the beginning of the problem. So, well, all this wiring was here. So we had that panel and relay and whatever else. But there's a whole bunch of stuff on this wiring that's debatable, and it looks like it's been like hooked and ripped apart. And there's a ton of little junk connections, and I don't have time to rewire the whole truck. Like, not that I wouldn't like to rewire the whole truck, but I mean, our requirements are pretty basic. We need a heater, we need wipers, we need ignition and headlights, because we're gonna have to be at the trailhead way early. But the inside's just, I wish you could smell how horrible this cab smells. But I mean, there's been some serious mice living this thing for a long time, and it's missing door panels, and it's got broken windows, and I could fix all of it. But why? We put the column in, and they didn't take off the harness, they cut it off. So there's just tons of random wiring just asking to leave me in the woods. And could I go bypass all of it and rewire it? Sure. Do I need to? No. And then to boot, every door smashed, every hood smashed, every fender smashed, every grill smashed. Like, the grill smashed to the point that the headlights probably look at each other rather than down the road. Do I really care that the sheet metal's straight on a basically a rock buggy that's gonna get smashed? No. But man, if it was straight, I would cut it nice and make it nice and make nice little fender protectors and stuff for it. It would end up a lot nicer rig. If you're gonna do all this work, why not shop and find a little bit better one? So, as of right now, I'm calling around seeing what we can do to find a better one. I got plenty of work to do. I still need to build these figure out how this front winch system's going on. I started to, and then I didn't know where the steering was ending up, and that concerned me. So I want to make sure that was in, and now that it's in, I'll probably build it, and then we'll probably pull this cab back off, and I hopefully find a better one. Got a couple of prospects tomorrow that might have whole trucks or cabs or whatever. I'm just frustrated. But anyway, I got plenty of other work to do. This truck was off of a C50, C60, something or other. And I still got problems here. Like, not that you can quite tell, but, well, you can see this. This is not attached. It's not. I pushed the thing outside after I set the motor in. Like, seriously, we put the bolts, the nuts on the bolts on the motor mounts. That's how little it was sitting here. It got to sitting there and done, and I walked away from it. So there's a whole bunch I got to figure out with this also, and we're running out of days. Today is Friday. That leaves me, we have to be on, we're leaving Friday morning, so we have to be loaded Thursday night. We have to pack Thursday night, and we've never put these two rigs on the trailer together, and they're supposedly going to fit together. But if they don't, we're going to have problems. So we got to figure that out, make sure they fit. So just assume Thursday is loading and making things fit on a trailer. Then after that, you have Wednesday. Wednesday, we should probably make sure this thing runs and drives. Like, that would be good. So take it out on a little test ride. Fix anything you need to fix Thursday morning, and then load it. So that leaves me Tuesday. I have Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And I have to source a cab, weld winches on, wire up all the winches and any lights it's getting, put a cab on, and make a motor work that's a conglomeration of different parts. So I guess I'm going to get to work. It's like, I don't know, 9 o'clock, but I got way too much stuff to do. And this isn't even a touch. Swapping the front lift springs, rock lights. Hopefully I get time to bolt the front winch on it, because I have to have a front winch of some sort, I suppose. We did get a lot done today. I had a lot of help with Calvin and Landy, and we did get a lot done. We got a steering column figured out. Landy assembled all of these. This is the little 3D printed winch box you've been seeing. It came out pretty slick. I'm printing the rest of them now. I'm not sold on this. This doesn't retain quite as easy as I would like. So I'm going to redo it and put a slot in there just so we have a safety zip tie to hold it on. But in general, they work pretty good. And then these little guys tuck right in here like so. Sorry, tuck right in there like so. And then they mount. They go right onto their stud. See if I can get you a way to see that. There you go. See, so they come out right their little hole, and then the little thing goes to their little spot over here or whatever. But looks nice and clean and professional. The blue one does the opposite. It goes there to there. But yeah, this little TPU gasket that went in there, it's like 50 thousandths per ounce, so you get nice squish when you bolt it down. It looks nice and clean. Pretty happy with all that, and this is enough to do all the winches. So that's cool. I'm definitely going to be short some red cable. I'm going to need to go get some more of that. And then pick up a water pump. I think the water pump on that is an industrial one, and that's why it's space funny. Also why maybe that little pulley doesn't work. But I need to get that figured out sooner rather than later, because if I can't order parts, then we're in trouble. But I'm a little concerned because this doesn't line up anywhere with any of those things, and then the power steering doesn't line up with the harmonic balancer one, best I can tell either. So things are looking grim, boys. Maybe we should order some adapters to put 37s on the Jeep just in case. We gotta have 37s to be in the class we're supposed to run in with all of our other friends. So, or I saws all the blazer cab apart, and we throw this sucker back together with a blazer cab and we freeze and get over it. That's going to be a very reasonable option very soon. So I'm going to focus on getting the motor running, getting the distributor in, getting the carburetor together. I can't hook up throttle to the carburetor because there's no point, because it's probably not staying on this cab. I'm going to weld up the rear winches. I'm going to weld up the front winches. Maybe mount a winch there that will get wired to a battery in some version of a cab. Who knows? We might make it. We might be okay. So I'm going to get back to work now. Okay, purpose of this, to test this winch. It's only tacked down, so hopefully it stays and doesn't launch. It works. I kind of figured it'd come off. I was gonna shut it off to see it stopped, and then I wanted to see if it would come off. So it did. I guess I'm gonna weld it on now. See how it does. I forgot the microphone, but here's the truck we're getting. Looks like she's been here for a little while, but heater box is there, heater fans there. It's a manual truck with a clutch linkage, no brake booster, but we got one of those. So looks like it'll work. I gotta use my chainsaw here and cut out some space so we can get her out. But yeah, should be a good cab for us. So anyway, how many chances do you get to pull a 68 with your 68? This was sitting down the road from us, and it's going to be the perfect cab swap. Don't worry about the hood being stuck up. I'm going like literally a quarter mile. Not going to go fast enough for it to matter. Same with all of these treasures. So got her all strapped down. Yes, it should be chained down, but once again, no farther than we're going. It'll be just fine. Check this thing out. It's gonna be so cool. I'm gonna have twins. One truggy, one tow rig. Wasn't even in the plans, but you know, sometimes things just work out. Going super slow because there's no trailer brakes hooked up. That was the trailer pushing us down the hill. I was just staying in front of it, was all I was doing. I'm in four-low first gear. I should have taken a rig that had trailer brakes hooked up, but the only other options were my Suburban. This is too heavy for the Colorado, and I could have drove my 2-ton, but it's got an open rear end, and I would have had to chain up, and it's hooked to another trailer. So I needed a four-wheel drive, 3/4 1-ton pickup, and I have one of those. Trailer brakes would have been good. And this is too heavy of a load for the Suburban also. So, not that it really matters at 0.1 mile an hour. But, we just take our sweet time. We only gotta go, you know. Like, I can see the driveway, but we're just gonna not put her in the ditch between here and there, and we'll be set. Alright, boys and girls, this is where we're at. So, got a new cab. You saw us picking it up yesterday. This cab is leaving. And then I'm getting help. They're on their way over now. So we'll be doing that this morning. We got the front winch mounts tacked up. So they go straight down through the bump stops that are kind of not perfect anyway. So we're going to cut off those. Cut off this hunk of tube that this is bolted to, which is fine. It's not pretty and it's not how I do, whatever. We're in a hurry. This is going to get welded to the bottom of the frame. This is going to get welded to the bottom of the frame. We'll double check, make sure we got plenty of brake line clearance. And then the winch will go straight down. And I don't know on what application these are for. I assume they're a shock bolt on something. But I cleaned the threads out. And that's where they bottom out on the blocks that are on here. But this is the perfect length for the hooks to go on there. So I can keep using the hooks. But if you compare this hook to say this hook, Okay, we'll go to this one. If you notice, the little tabbies are different lengths. This little cable stuck me earlier. All right. Okay, see how much longer this one is over this one? It's because it wouldn't fit. And you can kind of see there. So this wouldn't fit over that bolt. So I cut it down. I held it like so, and I stuck it in the bandsaw and whacked it off. But now, I want to keep the hooks. Originally, I was going to do like a thing where you just pinch the eyelet of the cable. But if I keep the hooks, I can always use them as a backup, like worst case scenario, something really hokey goes on. So now these fit, and the little thing clasp snaps through. Otherwise, the clasp didn't snap because it wouldn't clear the bolt right here like that. So now they can be suck down winches, and if we ever had something really go wrong, I could run it over the tire or run it back, or if you're gonna have the weight of the winch on there, you might as well make it as capable as possible. So the other thing we got done is I redesigned all these little boxes. So when the winch was, now I gotta put them all together, there's a whole bunch of them. But when the winch is sitting upright, right, we're gonna envision this is how the winch sits on the rig. I mean, it's 180, but you get the idea. So initially this was gonna stick out like this towards the tire, and I didn't like that. So I redrew this, and these little slots go all the way through like we saw in the video. So now this little box can just hose clamp to there, and it clears everything. And you can still get to all your solenoids. Oh, I have it bolted on there crooked. These are supposed to come out the side and the back, but I guess it doesn't really matter. Anyway, now these little loops still go to their prescribed places. Oh yeah, I have to rotate it so that, because these line up with this. So anyway, but yeah, how wild is that? This is little TPU gaskets like we showed, and they sit right in there to seal. And then, you know, you get your fancy little lid with my name on it. And then that all sits on this thing. It sits on there. These bolts that hold in the solenoid go into a real nut, because I was afraid about the weight of the solenoid coming out. This doesn't have all the bolts in it, so don't mind the fact that like you see more gasket in some places. But yeah, it's all held in with nuts, and these are just the lightest little press fit. So they stay nice in there, and then they bottom out such that they line up with the hole, and it's perfect. It works really good. That rear winch got installed, this one, and then I've been figuring out this accessory drive. So this motor came out of a 1982, 85 something C60. The whole drivetrain in this Blazer frame came out of an 85 K20, much like kind of this truck was, all into the 73. The situation is the industrial and the pickup versions have different accessories. So I stole, there was some parts that weren't going to work, or this didn't have something like power steering or whatever. So I swapped all of the parts across, so I thought, and then I got rid of that motor. Well, evidently I didn't swap across the water pump. So then my water pump didn't line up with it lined up like on this back groove on this bottom pulley, crank pulley. But then, and then the alternator was like way over here. So I'm making some spacers to space the alternator out to here. And then I threw this water pump on there just to see if that would make it work, and it seems to. And it's got a smaller pulley on it, so it's going to move more water, which I think I'm going to need, versus the commercial one had a big pulley on it that moved slow. That all depends on if the pumps are, assuming the pumps are the same, the pulley would make it go faster. And I don't know if the pumps are the same, it's a big guess. They seem awful similar. So that makes all that work. I still got to find a belt, and then I needed to space out the alternator 3/4 of an inch. So here is some rough cut aluminums that I'm going to deck to make sure they're nice and flat on the mill. Just make sure, just one pass each side, make sure they're square and flat and the same thickness. Knock a 1/2 inch or 7/16 hole through them, and then that, and I have longer bolts coming. One of the guys is bringing them, so that will space this whole alternator bracket. Those two bolts go in these two holes, and the alternator lives up here. And then what I don't like is everything is then on the same belt like a modern car. And V-belts didn't used to do that. You'd have like a belt for water pump alternator, crank, and then you'd have one for like crank to power steering. But, oh well. So, carburetor's installed, no throttle and stuff hooked up obviously because this cab's leaving. This cab's ready to come off. I got one little finger type bolt on the steering just so we can steer it to roll it out. And then the master's loose. And now I have to pull the booster. because we need the booster for the 68 cab. Yeah, I'm pretty excited. This is gonna be pretty cool. Instead of doing it all hard with the excavator this time, I think I'm gonna roll this out. We'll pull the cab off with the excavator, then it'll just be a frame, and then I will push the 68 in, not put it on the lift because she's a heavy girl. She's probably too heavy for my lift, but because it's just a cab and chassis with a huge flatbed, and the flatbed's full of junk. But I went out and jumped it last night, and the headlights turned on and it cranked over, so I know most of the wiring's working. The wipers turned on. I didn't have running lights, and the heater controls aren't in their little slot, so I'll have to hot wire a motor or chase that or something. But that's all real minor compared to what we were dealing with this cab. This one's gonna leave. The rear body mounts are different on the cab. I think the fronts are the same, because we're talking about a 68 cab to a 73 frame rather than a 73 frame to an 85 cab. Because I know these mounts are wrong for this truck. Like, I'd have to modify these mounts to get the front clip to go on. So we won't do that. We'll see what this one looks like. And I might go to the 37s just for this trip to save some time and make sure when I go to cut up this front clip, I take my time and do it nice, because I want to do it nice and do like a nice dovetail and nice tube work all around it. And if you're going to do all the tube work, you want to keep the cab nice, so that when you do the tube work, you end up with nice sheet metal, what's left of it when you're done, and then it'll stay nice because it's all wrapped in tubing, so it can't get hurt. That's where we're at. I'm gonna get to pulling the booster off. We're good. I think we're good all the way away. Yep. All right, now we just need to whack off those body mounts in the back with a cutoff wheel. All right, if nothing else, at least we have new problems. So, lowered the cab down. See right now, the cab needs to go slightly back to match the body mount to the bottom where it goes. However, we got other like the fenders on the tire. And I like the idea of the cab being farther back for tire clearance sense. The problems we're running into over here is I eyeballed the linkage and saw that it hit the same bell crank and assumed they'd be the same. And it might be doable. We'll find out. But now I have a whole parts truck to rob things off of. The steering shaft is obviously way short in relation. I don't particularly know what to do about that right away, other than swap the column that we put in the yellow truck, which should just be the 2 bolts under the dash, I suppose. But anyway, we need a clutch linkage, throttle cable somewhere, and this is the throttle, no, that's the speedo cable. I'm gonna have to replace the master. I don't know how we're fixing all the things. We're just gonna keep working. And with the frame all the way back such that the steering shaft lines up, this heater core on this truck is on the outside of the firewall rather than in the cab. So that's kind of a bummer, but I'm committed to this cab. I don't really care. So at first I was setting it down. I put a dent in it by setting it on here, and I tweaked it back slightly. So hopefully it's not kinked. I put a brand new fan in the Blazer, so I might steal that and put it in this one because it looks to be the same. The hood hinges were bent. We took those off. We're gonna go steal some out of the other truck out there. I'm probably not supposed to steal parts out of, but yeah, there's some other stuff going on. I don't know what we're gonna do about it, but it looks like right here I could still clear a radiator because the radiator sits in that little spot. We took it out because we couldn't get to this front body mount. But obviously you can see that the front body mounts are pretty significantly different. I thought they'd be in the ballpark. What I suspect that's going to happen, which I don't really want to happen, is this will get a little longer, because if it was up such that it worked, that's about lined up clutch linkage elevation wise. The goal is when it's all done, I want it to look clean and nice. I don't really want to do it in a hurry, but I am in a hurry. All right, doing a little set down cab test fit. It's giving off hard kill, muscle truck, roadkill vibes here. Hardcore, there you go. I'm a little tired and delirious. So the rear mounts are different, so I'm gonna have to weld those on. We whacked them off of the old frame, and then this cross member's in the way. I got my exhaust hanging off of it, and you need some sort of cross member, so it's gonna get beefed up later with a roll bar. But for the moment, I think I'm just gonna plasma cut this right across here. I mean, give myself 1/2 inch or something. Give myself some space. Then my exhaust hangers can stay. I don't have time to redo that. It still is tied together-ish. And then we'll just chink chink down out of the way because the frame starts to swoop up right there. And I think that'll be just enough that I won't have to like take the top plate off. I just need to cut it away from there. You can see these are we just cut the old rivets off. And then so this will just get welded wherever I need it to work. So once I get the front lined up, I'll snug those bolts in, and then we'll put these obnoxiously tall body mounts back on and roughly thread the bolts in to hold it into place, tack them up, and move on. The winch mount we tacked up over here looks like it'll work. The cab's back just a skosh, so it still needs to come forward, and then the shifter will be over there, and it'll clear barely. I'm also not convinced in this application I need this roller lead. Anyway, this one had to come out because it kept trying to bend my heater core, so we're gonna rework that. I still gotta cut off all the bump stops and everything like we talked about earlier. The guys dropped off the bolts to do the alternator and I haven't done that. I decided I was gonna try and get this body figured out. So if I get the body figured out, then I get the radiator figured out, and if I need to order any parts, I still got time because it's 9, 10 o'clock on Sunday night and still got a lot of work left to do. So I'm gonna mark out that rear cross member, lift the cab back up, cut that away, and then you can see that there's still a bit of a gap. I pulled the fender liners and everything because I tried to test fit with tires. But see, it's still sitting on there. So it's sitting on there, and then it must be sitting on this front clip, not allowing it to sit down. And you can see where that front clip body mount is right next to that power steering box. So I might have to mount that differently inside the frame or something, because this front body mount was like 6 inches farther up. Anyway, come to find out, this is a lot deeper. So I actually had to pull off this front bumper winch mount thing. And that means I'm gonna have to find time to rebuild a winch mount before we go also. I think I got some help coming tomorrow again. So Landy and Wyatt showed up this morning and helped me yank this cab off, yank the yellow cab off, yank this cab off, put this cab on the rack, pull the rig, everything back in, and get it ready for me to sit down and start doing all of this. And it was a huge help. I took a little break this afternoon for an hour or two because it's been a lot of hours. I'm getting sore and tired, but by golly, we got a dream. We're going to chase it. So I'm going to just keep trying to get this cab to test fit, because once the cab sits on there and sits normal, then everything else we can start building and working on. And then even if the cab just goes up and leaves while I finish working on everything else, at least when it comes down to go on, I know it's going to work. This booster's a point of concern. I looked at the clutch linkages. What we didn't notice last night, this clutch linkage is clear back on the bell housing of the motor. And though they look the same, the clutch linkage on the 68 mounts about the third cylinder back and is clear up here. So since I bought a whole frame, I'm going to go cut it off the other one and rob it and probably remount the linkage, but I still got to get it all to work together. So that's going to take some time as well. But luckily I have a frame to measure. So should be pretty straightforward. The problem is that it dumps, same as this clutch linkage, goes straight into the side of the thing right here. See how it mounts in there to the trans tunnel? The other one would mount right here and then run straight to the block and touch it. I have a header there. So I'm probably going to have to weld it and then weld a support to stabilize the other side so it doesn't do this when you push the clutch. I did a real quick Google search for a clutch, a hydraulic conversion, and it was too much money or back ordered or not available, or like you could buy one, but you couldn't even buy one specifically for this. So I ended up retrofitting it anyway. And I think I'm less time to make the mechanical linkage than I am to wait for parts and then have to figure out how to retrofit a hydraulic system in a hurry. So anyway, but the four pin wiring that goes to the back here is right there on the cab, so all I gotta do is splice them together. The alternator, that's all the alternator wiring, and I think it damn near might plug in. I just have to reroute it from, oh great, it's in a loom, from this side over to there. And then the starter and stuff was on the same side. Wherever it's wiring, oh, it's all sitting up here. So this is the starter, and this goes to the coil, and this went to trans somewhere. This went to a temp sensor. Oh, he clipped my wires to the starter, I think. Or he jerked them apart? I don't know. This was to the trans, this was a coolant on that same line as the coil. So that must have been starter, but that's unfortunate. Oh well. And then we have a oil pressure sensor line we have to hook up. We have one of those coming from our motor coming up to a union, so. And then that's our throttle. That mechanical linkage right there. So I got to figure out that, because my last one I don't think was a bar. And I have 2 days, maybe. I'll be surprised if we get to a roll bar and stuff. But we can only do one thing at a time. So go up and away with this. And we'll keep fighting on. Oh, you were supposed to mark that before you lifted it up. See? Sleep deprivation. Not a good thing. Okay, guys. It is Monday morning. We got our 68 truck. We got our 69 coffee cup. 68, whatever. The only way you can tell it by the hood, and it's a small engraving. But so discombobulated, I can't even tell you where my hat is. Last night, I learned some things. The location in, we're going to call this elevation, up and down the frame of the front A-pillar mounts right there under the cab, these guys, is the same compared from the 68 that this is to the 73 frame. What took me brutally long to learn last night after setting the cab on there and trying to center it 5 different times is the width of the mounts differs by about 2.5 inches. So I go cut the old ones off the old frame, but I'm in a time crunch. So you can see these are now slotted. And that seems to work. So now I can move on because those are pinned, basically pinned. We're going to measure the back and make sure I got it even and square. And then we cut the brackets off the old frame on this side. And these guys are going to go right here. Oh, there you go. Now you can see what I'm talking about. There-ish. I'll bolt them all together and we'll test them. And then we'll tack them. Then I'll pull the cab and we'll weld them. I think right now at the moment, I'm going to lift up the whole rig and clean up some of this mess. That whole pile of rust and dirt and crap came out of this cab corner. Well, not even the cab corner. The bottom support under the cab corner is rusted through. She's a pretty solid cab. She's not perfect. She's going to make a perfect cab for this. So that's dented somehow. There's definitely some rust and stuff in it. That's the cross member I cut out. We talked about. Threw the stock tires on it, or stock size tires on it. So that way I can roll it around and make sure that it's sitting level. I can make my cab level. Ambitious goal for today is to make it run and drive. But I got Caleb coming to help me again. So we gotta swap masters. I gotta extend this steering shaft. But if you look, there's little pins on it. Somewhere right there. It's dirty, but there's a pin right there. There's a pin right there. And I think if I either knock those out or drill them out, then this will slide up and down some, and I can just shoop, extend it out till it touches, and I'll bolt it on, and then we'll weld it there. I have to go cut the linkage both off of this frame and off the other frame. Before I do final bolt down to the frame, I want to run some battery lines to the back because the battery's probably going to live in this front passenger corner. And then I got winches to run in the rear. And I want, the option of a cradle winch. So then I'll just run healthy battery cable. We'll set it up on 2 terminals. And then off of that, I'll run a pigtail to run to a cradle winch. And then off the 2 terminals, I can run each little winch also. And then only run 1 big wire instead of running 2 pairs of little wires up here and then 1 pair of big wires back for a cradle. Considering the winches are suck down winches only, I'm only going to be using them when I'm driving, and I won't be using them in conjunction with the cradle winch. So amperage should be fine. And we'll put a breaker on it, so even if you do overload it, you're fine. You need to install the starter and the alternator, clutch linkage. Maybe not. I'll probably throw in the radiator we have, give it a good little wash flush, and then finish the body mounts. But the body mount should be pretty straightforward because those are there. It's a little tight in relation to my power steering pump, but clearance is clearance, man. Or it's sitting on it, whatever, it's fine. So we don't need that part anyway. We'll just grind that off the box. Oh, this thing's always had a horrible power steering leak.
Come to find out this one nut was clear loose, so we tightened that up. Got a lot of the stuff off the front of this right now, this little front hood mount, and then this is clearance over this. I ordered a 2-core aluminum performance radiator because it'll be here Wednesday, and if this other one's not good and I had to go buy one at O'Reilly's, they're like almost $400 for just a stock one. And then I ordered a heater core, I ordered hood hinges because I was gonna go steal them off Old Red, but I'm gonna rather not. So now I can just put new ones on. I ordered a new door handle because this door worked. And now just pushed it in and it's chilling in there, just living its best life. I have to modify the trans tunnel. I want to jump power to it and make sure the heater turns on. If we get time, we'll replace a seat, but that's a big if. Oh, a friend of mine stopped by and gave us a console. It's out of a OBS Chevy. All right, here's it lifted up. So you can see this is the body mount we're shooting for. It's threaded up in there. Winch clearance changed a little bit with that heater core. That's why you tack things in and not final weld them.
All right, little update. Here's where we're at. So Caleb cut off the shift linkage. He's been building a new one. I modified this steering shaft. That's the e-brake cable, don't mind that. But, so this is off of the 85K30. This is off the 85K30. I cut this one off, cut part of the tube off from this one, stuffed it in there to be the spacer. We're gonna plug weld it, do a little weld on the outside. This floats right now, so we're gonna plug weld that and weld around there, and then this stays up there like that, and then this is adjustable, so that can float it in and out, and that gives us a little bit of angle because we were a touch off with our taller cab mount, but I'll buy us some tire clearance later. So now we have steering, and this just barely clears the whole winch assembly. After that, we got front mounts figured out with the right assortment of spacers. We got rear mounts figured out, and they're only partially welded. I need to go back and finish welding them, but rear mounts are there and they could use new bushings. We ever so slightly clear my crossbar. And what else? Oh, we did a front, cut off the blazer brackets that were broke, welded on this little bar across here, and it's got little bolts holding the front clip down. So, rocking and rolling. Jenna went and got some parts. Landy got some parts, got them to Whitehall. Jenna's picking them up from Landy. And then we should be close in that department as well. Getting there. All the fun little linkage stuff. All right, this was Caleb making the brake booster fit. Another little update. We got the steering shaft together as we talked about in the last one. So plug welded this to this shaft, that to that shaft. This shaft was limited here with some piece of, I don't know, plastic last time. And it all works and cycles as it should, flexes as it should, welded up there. Next, we're making a throttle linkage. It goes to this and then to this hole up here to make the carburetor do carburetor things. And it was too short, the one we pulled off of the 6-cylinder. So now it's been lengthened, just a piece of 1/4-inch rod, TIG welded in between. Is there a hole in there? Oh, there is. Okay. Now I just gotta drill a hole in this thing and it should, assuming the choke stays open, then you can get full power. Now we'll have a whop, whop, whop. So, but I need something to keep that in there. It had this little springy do, but it gets stuck to the mill. Anyway, put it in the vise, set of parallels, plant's a little goofy. Center drill, little drill, put it on, put it back together. Little cotter pin there, makes it cycle like it should. Caleb's got this in, the thread on part was the long length. It was 1 inch short, so just TIG welded it, quite hot. But anyway, it's yeah, that'll work. So now it just threads on, so we're just gonna thread it on. Next problem is the e-brake cable is too short. Caleb's out there seeing if the one on the Blazer is the same. This squeaks, the mount clears, but the winch doesn't clear this. So that's gotta move again. Anyway, so does the other one because of a heater core, and it looks like there's a lot more room. Well, this one I can kind of cheat a little. I don't know, we'll have to see if that one's tall enough to clear the alternator. But this one for sure I could cheat forward and then just angle back. And it's less than ideal, but it should probably work. Good morning. It is Tuesday morning, and thanks to Caleb's help, we got a bunch of work done yesterday. So, belts on, got the filter for the air cleaner over there on the lathe, getting the wiring sorted out, what it needs to do. It's a little old, and some of it's kind of crusty. You can see it like wants to break, or see how the coating's like breaking, like that. So I'm gonna cut that off and splice it. This is the exciter wires for one went down to the starter, and I don't know as to why. Maybe that's showing what I don't know, but we'll find out. And then the other goes to the coil, which in my case is an HEI distributor. So I'll be cutting and splicing the wire, or just crimping it in on that wire and running it to the distributor. Fuel's hooked up. I need to hook power to the fuel pump. That's one of these wires. Okay, it's probably not that wire. It's probably this wire that's running the fuse box. And then I need to put oil in the motor, hook up a vacuum line in the distributor so it advances. And then I think we're ready to fire it up. We got the distributor in and all the wires run to the right places, so we think. We'll find out. I have no idea how much gas is in it. I'll check that. Got to rerun some wiring. All this wiring over here is for the alternator, because on the 6-cylinder it was on this side. So I need to rechase these wires down and across. These are the wires coming from the frame on the Blazer, I believe. And then this wire right over, let's see if you can see it. The other identical 4-pin wire down there is cut off from the cab, and it goes to this. The 2 wires that go to the transmission, probably for reverse lights, is cut off on the transmission, and that's what 2 of the wires are in that bundle, so I'll hook those up. I have a hood to put back on. Tomorrow I get a delivery for a whole bunch of Summit stuff that involves a radiator and a hood and that kind of thing. We'll see if I get that far before then. I got plenty of winches and things to wire. I'd like to make sure the motor runs. Once I know the motor runs and everything goes into gear and our clutch assembly works, I will probably be less worried about the hood and the radiator being in, because those are pretty simple options. That's where we're at. I'm going to dump some oil in it and get to doing some wiring, build a new battery box because it's toast, and mounting that fuse box that's hanging over there and rewiring some of that stuff. All right, moment of truth. Taking off the little stock rollers. Here is basically a 37 by 15.5. Kind of a beast. Here, we'll roll it over here so you can see it compared to the 41s that came off. I don't want to have to cut the cab a ton more than I need to. So, though they're shorter, you can see how much shorter they are this way, right? Not a ton, but some. That's the top of the 37 right there. So you can see it's that, I don't know, 4 inches. Width-wise, they are wider. And when the game is surface area, it'd be interesting to compare. So So at full droop, or not quite full droop, There's full droop. This way, we might get away with it. We don't have a whole lot of up travel. I mean, I'm still trimming some for sure. But I intend to keep these fenders together anyway. And look, this one's rusted. I'm just gonna do some rust repair. So, and then all the way this way. Well, hey, we can't even go all the way that way because we're gonna hit. So, that's for sure gots to go. That's gonna be cool. Tire clears when it's up. See it when it's down. This so far is looking great. I mean, I got up travel to go, obviously, but as the axle picks up, I got a long ways here. And I only got this front corner to go. I need to trim a little more. I don't know, I'm pretty happy with that. What do you think? Doesn't look too botched. Don't like this little spot. A little far out, I could probably blend that a little bit. Good light, we'll see. All right, first test start. Okay, we're in neutral.